What up? What up? What up? This is Mike the Philosopher here with another ranking from Kevin Samuels. And this one is labeled, Do Some Women Think the Worst of Men? Now, this was by a stripper that he interviewed. And let me say a few words about Kevin Samuels first. I know he recently passed, and it was a bit of a shock to a lot of the community. He did go in on a lot of men for the first 3 years of his career, and then he focused on the women for the last 2 years of his career. He gave it to both. He gave it to both genders. And sometimes I feel like he's only known for going after one gender, which is not the case. I mean, the guy really came at both sides of the community to try to get us to the table and start negotiating on how we can end up together and be together. So, for that reason, I do appreciate what Kevin Samuels was trying to do, because what he was trying to do was not easy in the slightest. It was a very difficult thing. He took a lot of arrows on both sides of the fence, and from both, from both sexes, and he really tried to, take all of those shots and for the good of the community. In my eyes, he seemed to be a bit of a martyr because he gave his life to do that. Now, you know, there's no denying the amount of stress that he encountered by doing this, by talking to people on a day-to-day basis, and having shows as often as he did. His work ethic was off the charts, and he was doing it for the community. Now, some might say, well, he was doing it for his own financial gain. And what businessman wouldn't be in it for a financial gain? But at the end of the day, the focus was very clear that he was trying to uh, better the community. And he said this, the focus is this. Now, I may get what I want along the way, but at the end of the day, the focus is getting the community back together. And I think he was on the verge of doing that. Now, some might have, you know, questioned his tactics. And I get that. Some of the things he said to the guys, was not well received. But oftentimes, men do take things on the chin all the time, and critiques and things like that. And that's why nobody really heard of him for the first 3 years, because he was talking about the men, and the men would take it on the chin. But once he started talking about women, then it did two things. He became famous with the women, and he became hated with the women, a lot of them. And what a lot of people don't realize, like I said, is that he was doing this with both sides. It wasn't just one side. So for that reason, I do appreciate what he was doing, and I do see the big picture of what he was trying to accomplish. He was also trying to get a media company going to the point where we wouldn't have, platforms that we have to rely on just to get our voices heard and get the things that we like to say out, uncensored, so to speak. So I wish those would have came to fruition. But I will say that I still appreciate the man for what he's done. I chew the meat and I spit out the bones. Did I agree with 100% of the things? No, I didn't. Maybe even not even some of the tactics or the way he expressed things, but I see the overall big picture of it. And if things would have kept going, I think it would have actually helped the community, because it will bring both parties to the table where we can negotiate on how to be together. So shout out to Kevin Samuels, the Godfather. You will be missed. RIP, my brother. Now, going on with that, I will say I will be covering some of his videos that he's done with some of the interviews that he had, especially on Instagram and things like that, in kind of remembrance of him, and also a breakdown of what Kevin Samuels was saying or trying to say, or things of that nature. So stay tuned for that, and let's get started with the interview, the stripper that he had. Let's go.
Hello, hello. How are you?
How are you, Kevin?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. I just want to say that I do love your show and I respect it.
How old are you?
I'll be 30 in July, so I'm 29.
So you heard the starting part.
Now let me say this. Shout out to the Godfather, Kevin Samuels, who passed away. But here's the thing. There are a lot of women out there who did like what he was doing. And shout out to a lot of those women. And shout out to the ones who really didn't like some of the stuff he was saying. Because, everybody's entitled to their opinion, right? And a lot of them, sometimes they don't get the message. Everybody, this is what I learned in my life. Just because you relay a message don't mean the person is ready to receive it now. It don't mean that they're going to get it now. They may get it later. They may get it years from now. But the goal is to plant the seed. Okay? I actually learned this with my kids. I told them things they wasn't even ready for at the time. And then they got to a point where they understood because they were more wise and more mature. So sometimes you have to wait for people, or it could be a situation where, you see a live example of what I was talking about or what somebody is talking about. And then they say, oh, now I see what you were saying, because now I see a live example of that. And, and sometimes the truth hurts. I mean, men have to deal with a lot of truths that we have to deal with. Women want this. They want the sixes, 6 feet, 6 figures, all of these things, and we kind of take it on the chin. And you got to be Superman in the bedroom. We take all that on the chin, but sometimes it's hard for the women to hear some of the things that the men like. And that's what Kevin was doing. He was taking a lot of arrows and a lot of darts for the men because there was no one in society who was actually willing to take on this role because of the backlash. But make no mistake about it, the guy had a lot of people who agreed with what he was saying. You can argue his tactics all day, but the truth is the truth. So, and was all of it true? It's left up to debate. I didn't agree with 100% of what Kevin said and did, but I did understand underneath all of the, look, at the end of the day, you got to understand he had a business to run too. He had to make it entertaining. He did have to make it a little shock jock, had to have that value to it because, otherwise people are really not gonna watch it. That's what made Gordon Ramsay famous. That's what made Simon Cowell famous. That's what made a lot of guys famous. You got to make it kind of. You have to have that shock jock value just to get people to watch. So, and I think a lot of times people forget that part of the business. you have to have it entertaining. So all that said, let's go back in.
A lot of women today almost seem like they want to be paid to be women. What do you think about that?
It's kind of true. It's true.
Okay.
I can admit we might have the wrong mindset overall with relationships.
Okay, where'd it come from?
I guess Disney fairy tales. Our parents, aunts.
Are you single?
I am. I just got out of the situation actually, and I don't know if it's something that you talked about on your show before, but I think it's something that would be good for your show.
Okay. With your last situation?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get to it, but I don't know any Disney story where a man had to pay for a woman to be a woman.
I mean, not exactly pay for her, but you know, the princess and
I wish her.
just that type of thing.
Let me say this. I wish she would back up a little bit so I could see more of her face. I'm not seeing a good amount of her. I see enough to kind of make a judgment, but she needs to lower her camera or something. I'm getting way too much forehead and not enough face. But let's continue.
Okay. The Disney. No, I don't. I'm trying to understand, like, where is it that a princess? But anyway, what's the story you have?
Okay, so I'm just wondering, in your opinion, how do you feel about women who have been in the industry in general? I know you respect the hustle.
Say again.
Your phone's going slow. Women who have been in the industry, like the nightlife.
Let me put this headphone in because something's going with the audio. And somebody. Answer your question again.
How do you feel about women who have been in the nightlife?
Women working in the nightlife.
Yes, and then finding a real, authentic relationship.
Depends on what you mean by nightlife. You mean like dancing or something like that?
Dancing, bartending, being an entrepreneur on top of that.
No.
You know what? It's not gonna happen.
Well, I mean, those are three different things.
Mm-hmm.
Being a dancer, I don't know many women who walk away psychologically balanced, looking at men in a healthy way from dancing.
Because we expect to be taken
Because it's a
care of, kinda
game.
like the
Well,
face
it's
Yeah, it's like, if you live that life, you got to understand that even though you're getting paid, you're getting paid for a certain type of lifestyle, but at the same time, there is a cost to it too. I mean, there's a cost. You are going to be looked at a certain type of way. You are going to be judged. You are going to be maybe even sometimes disrespected, but you're getting paid for that. So that's the cost that you're going to have to make. Some men are going to look at you different, and it just is what it is. Not even just men, but people in general, even other women. You will get judged, but you're getting paid to get judged. So, I mean, it's not like you're not making money out of that lifestyle, but there's a cost on the back end. Let's go back in.
it's like being a bartender. You see people at their worst. And so, I mean, can it happen? Sure. Is it likely? Not really. Not healthy, because where the men that are going there are going for what reason?
to be entertained.
So
Something that they're not getting at home.
well,
Correct?
whatever it is, it's kind of hard to undo if we see you out making money dancing. That's going to always be in a guy's mind. So now bartending, depending upon where you're tending bar, but that's still, that's not like dancing. But when you say entrepreneur, what does that mean?
E-commerce business, e-commerce sales.
See, the issue I have with all this kind of stuff is it's so hard to understand what it is.
Not for nothing. When she said entrepreneurship, I thought she was gonna talk about streetwalker stuff. To be honest, I mean, because sometimes that could be, people try to jazz up what they're really doing. I mean, e-commerce, obviously, that's selling stuff online, and that's cool. But you know, she did throw three random, professions out there: dancer, bartender, and e-commerce. And she got three hustles. That's good. Let me say this: she do deserve love. Also, she do deserve love just because she's doing those things. But she has to understand they are going to come at a cost. Maybe she's not going to get, a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, or a judge. She's not going to get a caliber of man that has to watch his image. She's not going to get a politician or anything like that. She's automatically, I want to say, kind of lowering her standards to more of a different type of man, so to speak. So one that's not high profile, you know, and it just is what it is. It's because they have to take you around their colleagues. They have to take you around some of their business partners, maybe, and they if they know you're a stripper, they be going, oh, this is my girl. She's a stripper. Oh yeah, I know, Sunshine. I know, yeah, I know her. I seen her at the club. I seen her bust it open at the club. Like, that's embarrassing to the guy. So you have to know that you're probably limiting your range of men to be with when you choose that profession. It just is what it is. Let's go back in.
A small business online of selling products.
You could be flipping stuff on eBay or Amazon. That's
Having
fine.
your own. Okay.
Okay, but is it something that you know, as long as it's legal, but is it something you plan on doing for the rest of your life, or is it just something you're doing now?
Are you talking about the e-commerce business?
Yeah. Because we talked
Yeah.
about dancing, we talked about bartending and stripping. Those are hustles,
Right.
short-term hustles. But selling something online, even if you're just drop shipping or whatever, but are we talking about building a real business, or are we talking about a hustle?
No, building a real business, having a private label, having actual products, not just drop shipping.
Okay. Well,
And being a small business, but I think you said before, if your business cannot benefit the man, it's not as important. I mean, those weren't your exact words, but you get what
that's the broad. Also depends on what you're doing. I mean, if a man wants a wife and kids, what comes first? How can what would something? If you can't do it all, what gives?
what gives.
You got a husband. You got if you're married.
Yeah, what gives? And again, oftentimes women don't want to let go of their lifestyle. Now, if you got another man and he's making good money, you don't necessarily have to let go of the lifestyle. So I would say, if anything got to give, it got to be the stripping. I mean, that's number one off the board. I haven't seen this video. I don't know what she's going to say, but I would think that would be number one off the board. Maybe number two would be the bartending. And then you can still do the e-commerce stuff, but you can be doing e-commerce and get married and probably still, be back start rising your level of man that you want to be with. I mean, if you are an ex-stripper, I don't think that's as bad as being a current stripper. You know what I mean? So maybe you could still have one of those guys, those high caliber guys, after you're done with all of that. But I would think the first thing to come off the table is to be a stripper. Let's see what they say.
Married and you got kids, how you gonna do all that in the business?
You're right. It would be hard to juggle, but it happens.
Does it?
I think so. I've seen successful women entrepreneurs, but
Black women?
okay, I've seen a lot of successful women, Black entrepreneurs, but majority of the time they are single.
What do you get from that knowledge right there?
Um,
You can't. It's hard to juggle both. I'm not saying you can't do both, but it's hard to juggle both. Now, e-commerce, I don't see why you can't do that and have a family. So, you know, that should be a high possibility because you're at home. You're still at home. You can still get other things done. You can still get cleaning, cooking, taking care of the kids. You know, making your husband's lunch or whatever the case may be. You can still do all that because you're still at home. So I think, you know, and women are pretty good multitaskers. So I don't see why you can't do that. But I think the point Kevin is trying to drive home is that uh, you will have to give and take. I think he's talking about her whole career, like everything. But let's go back in.
it's hard to balance
There is
that
no
type of
balance.
lifestyle.
There is no balance.
Okay.
Because when you get an entrepreneur, you're generally getting boss bitch energy.
True.
But what if you don't give off that energy?
It's rare.
A blind squirrel will find a nut. Somebody got to win the lotto, but I don't deal in what ifs. I deal in what is.
Okay.
Do you want to be the provider, or do you want your husband to be the provider?
I would want my husband to be the provider. I don't want to pay significant bills.
Okay, so again, it's one thing to have to take care of yourself, but it's another thing to still be trying to be a mother, a wife, and a business owner. You cannot have it all. You got to give something up.
Right.
Okay.
You either
So
give up the husband. Generally, to give up the husband is what you give up.
as a Black woman, that's
Yeah.
normally what we give
Yeah,
up. Okay.
Yeah, that's normally what happens. If it comes between a husband and a business or a hustle, oftentimes Black women will give up the husband. Okay. And that's just a hard reality in our community. And I'm not saying this to be discouraging. I've seen it. Hell, it's happened to me. Okay, I'm getting personal now. It's happened to me. So I know how it is out in these streets, and I see how the community moves, see how the women move. And, you know, it just is what it is. Now, if that's more of your priority, is your career other than your family, then it is what it is. But I think another reason why Kevin started doing this is because he's trying to change the narrative. He's trying to change it to where people value family instead of things and careers and everything. It's almost like we got our priorities mixed up. Let's go back in.
Because that's what you choose.
So if as a Black woman, that's not something that I would want to give up, do you suggest that I just stop my business and just search for that
Well, no,
provider male,
that's a
the
different question.
husband?
That's a different question. All right. Why? Before I answer that, why can non-Black women seem to balance being wives and running businesses like you're talking about, and being mothers, and not have to give up one or the other?
I think maybe so. More white and non-Black women were brought up to be that way.
Let's just go. If we go with that,
Hmm.
Yeah, if we go with that, then why aren't we being brought up that way? Why aren't we being brought up? You know, the Black community. Who's doing the raising? And oftentimes, maybe 80% of the time, it's the women. So the question is, why aren't the women teaching that? Now, the fathers need to be teaching that too. Make no mistake about it. The fathers, the husbands, they need to be teaching this as well. It's not just all on the women, but oftentimes they're the ones with the heaviest load as far as raising the kids, whether they're with a man or not. So, and oftentimes they're not. So, with that being said, w- why aren't the women raising the women that way? I mean, if every other community can do it and they have their things that they're dealing with, why can't we do that? And why is the the narrative being driven more towards independence and entrepreneurship and not with family? You know, like I said again, the priorities are a bit messed up in our community. Let's go back.
How do you change that energy? Because here's the thing. Before I don't want to get too far down that path because that'll take us off target. Okay, are you a wife? Is the question.
I
See, a
am
lot
not
of
right now.
okay, a lot of women ask about later on, but the big question is, do you want to be a part of your husband's team or do you want a partner?
I want to be part of my husband's team.
All right.
I feel like I'm a better asset by being a team player than me being the.
Well, let me just say this. She wants to be a part of our husband team. So far, that's showing real good mentality, because oftentimes that's not the answer that some women will get. So the fact that she's even asking this question to Kevin Samuels, she likes what he does, and the fact that she wants to be on her husband team shows so far a pretty good mentality as far as being a wife. She may not have been raised a wife, but it looks like that's what she wants, and to me that looks like wifey material so far. But let's go back in.
Lead myself.
All right. How old do you say you are again?
I'll be 30 in July.
All right. Have you always wanted to be married?
No.
When did this happen?
You're right.
Probably when I started watching you.
And that's the problem. And this is the problem because so many of our women start to recognize later in life, close around 30, that this isn't the real play. So it's not as though the men are looking for anything different. It's like you have to be what those guys are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got to have a job right now because you got to be able to take care of yourself. And most women want to be able to have a man who can provide, but men who can provide come with rules.
They do.
She sort of got a face that looks like Chili a little bit from TLC. Um, it, it, y'all put in the comments if y'all think I'm bugging or not. I see a little Chili in her, but let's go back in.
Do. And a lot of men who provide step outside of the marriage as well.
So?
And that's okay, right? I'm just asking.
I'm asking you,
It's
can
something-
you handle it? Here's a question. Can you handle it if they do?
Yes.
Now, she says she can handle if they do. Again, that's not an answer you will hear a lot about from women in our communities. Oh, I'm a little intrigued. Let's go back in.
There's a reason. I know a lot of women don't like that, but a lot of women today want it all. I'm like the cleanup Betty Wright, the cleanup woman. I mean, grandmama, granddaddy. I don't know. I feel a empathy from women today because you've been told you could have it all, and you can't.
Okay.
And it's about choices and trade-offs. What is more important? Do you want a man who doesn't step out? Because I'm not saying every guy will, but I'm saying if he does and you don't find out about it, what difference does it make?
It doesn't make a difference.
So I go look for the problem. That's my point.
But being in the nightlife a little bit, I think you're more open-minded to those type of things because you see more. So I think my mindset might be different from the average woman.
Average what woman?
Now she makes a great point here. She's in the nightlife, so she's seen more. So poly and stuff like that is not doesn't have a shock value to it. Say for instance a woman who's an accountant or something like that. you know, she's probably seen some stuff, so she's a little more liberal minded. I mean, that's probably how she got into life in the first place. So she's just a little bit more liberal when it comes to relationships and how they work. She's probably seen every type of relationship combination that you can think of: man and woman, man and man, woman and woman, you know, so forth and so on. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Let's go back.
Average,
I think a lot of black
modern.
women want.
I'm gonna say
I think a lot
modern.
of.
I'm
I
not
think
gonna
a lot
put a
of.
color
I
on
think a
it, but
lot of sisters want. I think a lot of sisters have a fantasy view of marriage because I don't. You want alpha male providers, alpha male looks, alpha male height, all this alpha. Then you want strict loyalty and monogamy, and like that doesn't exist, not
right,
in
fairy
mass.
tale.
So
Yeah, and you know, the definition of an alpha is a guy, or you know, head male who can have his choice in women. It's like that in the primate, you know, kingdom. It's like that in the, you know, lion kingdom, and it's like that in the human kingdom too. We just don't really acknowledge it because a certain group of people set some certain rules and made it what it is. Now, you can argue whether poly and stuff is right for you. I mean, you have that right to make that choice, but at the end of the day, um, it's actually been a part of humanity. I would probably even say longer than monogamy has. It's been a thing, and this is not me making this up. Poly has been around much longer. And this is going to be a hard truth, but humanity probably wouldn't exist if if it were monogamous. Let me say that again. Humanity probably wouldn't even be here if we relied solely on monogamy. The reason why human beings were able to flourish, especially in Africa, because of poly relationships. It just is what it is. It's another form of survival, and that's what we need to embrace because it's just a hard truth. Poly is a survival mechanism, and you know, women may not. Now, I know there's a lot of things out here, a lot of, you know, diseases and things like that. For those reasons, I can understand women and even men being apprehensive of polygyny, you know, but at the same time, it's something that should not be taken off the table. It just shouldn't. It's a form of survival, and the thing is, this is why you have laws like Roe versus Wade getting reversed because, you know, if you have to rely solely on monogamy, you can't have women being able to, you know, do away with pregnancies at their own will because this is why men are getting upset because the population is decreasing. So I know I'm getting a little long-winded with that. Let's go back in.
it's about choices and trade-offs.
Mm-hmm.
And at 30 years old, I would say, do you want children?
I have one child.
How old?
She's 5.
You got to be able to answer that question too. Because guys are always going to ask, why didn't you marry the child's father?
Right.
And women don't like when I say that you don't typically get higher than your baby daddy.
Mm. Okay.
And what would that put? Would that put you in? Is your ex a provider male?
I wouldn't say so, not right now at this moment. But he has been a provider male.
Okay.
So he wasn't, not at this moment, but he has been a provider male. I think that's just because I think that's just a way for her to try to up his value. Um, because Kevin said, you don't get higher than your baby daddy. So she knows he's not, but she want to raise his value to raise her value, if that makes sense. Because she probably knows she can't get much better. Let's go back in.
Yeah.
Men look at
So there's
predicate.
nothing wrong with him. He's a great guy. He's a great father. But
Right.
people go through trials and tribulations. I'm gonna say that.
Of course.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
life happens to everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's getting back up, and that's what's going on. But me personally, we just grew apart. But I know for you, you feel like marriage is not all about love. I know that as well.
Well, it's not.
It's not. So
it's not. I mean, we can say that shit when people live to be 40 years old. Okay, let's just take. Do you think it's about love?
No.
Did you used to?
I did.
All right. What if we lived to be 300?
I did. I used to think it was a fairy tale.
Well, so is it just over between you and your child's father? Forever?
Yeah.
Irreconcilable?
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest, man.
We're great friends. We get along. We're
I get it, but you got to look at the men who will come next. Russell Wilson and Sierra are in the news again. Why do they stay in the news so much?
Because Russell Wilson is completely opposite of Sierra's previous child's father.
But they stay in the news so much for that because so many men look and say, why did a guy who's a Super Bowl winning quarterback go choose to become a baby daddy? I mean, a stepfather. And you wouldn't see Tom Brady doing that. And far too many guys today, especially black men, are starting to say, we're not stepping up to be stepdaddies. That is not. Especially the kind of men especially the men who are in the top 20%, who can call some shots. So what does that leave women?
I think, and that's an interesting point. I think a lot of times, I think they stay in the news because a lot of women see themselves in Sierra. They really see themselves in Sierra, and they say, if it can happen to her, it can happen for me. I can get that NFL Super Bowl championship quarterback just like Sierra. When in reality, that's the Sierra is a lottery ticket. It's like she won the lottery. That's not going to happen with every woman, but that relationship is romanticized a lot because a lot of women can see themselves in Sierra. Yeah, I got a baby daddy. He ain't this, that, and the third, but I could still be saved, so to speak, with this wonderful guy who's worth all these millions and highly respected. So it gives them hope. And I once asked someone, why don't women do that with Beyonce? Like, why don't y'all, like, why is Russell and Sierra situation more seemingly desirable than Beyonce and Jay-Z? And one woman told me because Beyonce is a fairy tale. They can't even see themselves in Beyonce because Beyonce is just too far an anomaly. And my response is, so is Sierra. Let's go back in.
Where does that leave a lot of women? If you're looking strictly for husbands, if men who are in the marrying category aren't looking to be stepfathers, what does that mean?
I didn't hear the last part because my phone.
If men who are in the husband category are not looking to be stepfathers, what does that leave women with children who want to be married?
Single. or sidelines.
And that's an unfortunate reality. That's going to prohibit you more than anything else, the kid. And
Yeah, and that's probably why he's preaching to share man, because and she don't seem to be um not willing to do that. So that, I think that's why he preaches that poly lifestyle, because if you got kids, then you got, those are I mean, they're liabilities no matter how you look at it. They are liabilities, and it's oftentimes it's a thankless job for a man, because the woman is not really going to thank you much, and the kids are not really going to thank you much. But you have a lot of responsibility to take care of them. She said in the beginning that she wants to provide her husband. She don't want to have to work. So that means it's solely going to be on the guy. So, but another thing she said is she's willing to share. So that's making it more possible for her. But let me go ahead and give her a ranking. Shout out to them too, especially Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace, my brother. Here we go. Check out this ranking. So for her, I would give her face about 6. Okay. To me, she kind of looked like Chili from TLC a little bit. Her hair was almost similar to it, but she definitely had the round face and round features like Chili do in TLC. So that's why I gave her face a 6. Onto her body. Now, obviously, I couldn't see her body, right? But if she was a stripper, then it's probably a decent looking body. But since I can't see it, I'm going to give her a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to go 6 with that, 6 with the body. Okay. Now, mentality, it looks like she was going in the right direction. She seemed a little bit more liberal with her viewpoints and the things that she was willing to deal with. And she seemed open-minded about maybe even sharing her man, but she didn't want to pay any significant bills. That's what she was saying, and that's what she wanted to do. So all that being said, I seen her mentality going in the right direction. I got to question how far along she is. So for that reason, I'm gonna give her a 6.5 in mentality for a total score of 18.5 points. Okay, so that's her in the nutshell. It was a good interview. Shout out to Kevin Samuels and the young lady he interviewed. I think she has some potential. She reached the 15-point mark, so she is workable, even though she was a stripper. But I think her mentality is going in the right direction. For that, I will say hit the like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace to everyone, and peace out to Kevin Samuels.